The great Star Trek The Next Generation breakdown continues with a look at Season 5.
Welcome to DiceGeeks.com Tabletop RPG Show. Level up your RPG campaigns by filling yourself with stories and knowledge. Explore topics from archaeology to film history to writing to literature and much, much more. This is DiceGeeks.com Tabletop RPG Show.
Welcome to the show. My name is Matt, and I am your host. This is the podcast where we learn how to become better game masters and role players by filling ourselves with stories and knowledge. Okay, guys, now today's interview is going to be a little something different because the Star Trek The Next Generation breakdown, we recorded a 3-hour-long episode, so I've broken that into 3 pieces, talking about some of the later seasons here. My guest is Ryan McHargue. He is the host of the Geezers of the Game podcast. He is also a writer. There will be links in the show notes, of course. So we begin today's interview in progress, and our stream of consciousness TNG discussion continues. Here it is.
Yeah.
And so,
but this has some of the best episodes.
Season 5. So season 5. We do
Darmok, I love the whole idea of it.
Yeah. Darmok.
Well done.
Yeah. Darmok is a weird one for me too, because it's starting to border on some of the episodes where they're starting to lose me, but they actually do a really good job here. And so
I must have been about 16, 17 when this episode aired. To see 91. No, I couldn't have been that old. 15 maybe.
Yeah, I think I was like 16 or so. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was about 15. And I remember this episode only vaguely from those years. But as an adult, I love this episode because of the depth to it.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I didn't see the depth.
Yeah, maybe we should set it up a little bit. The alien race communicates only in metaphor. And so
Which actually doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. So basically, if some people aren't familiar, so they'll say a phrase like "Shaka when the walls fell," and that is a symbolic statement representing failure.
Say that. They do say that.
Yes, they do say that. But it's a symbolic phrase representing failure. So you wouldn't say, "Oh, I failed," you'd say "Shaka when the walls fell," and that would mean failure. Or some of the other ones.
The whole
Timna, his arms wide.
Yeah, the whole premise is this incommunicatable gap between this alien race and the rest of the Federation. They just cannot. They've tried and tried over periods of time and just cannot communicate.
Yeah.
So out of desperation, they're sent to kidnap the captains and put them in a battle arena, basically, where they have to fight for their lives. So they have to work together.
Yeah.
They have to find a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's Riker kills the other captain.
I know there are some parts of it that irritate me. Yes. I should mention the alien captain is played by the great Paul Winfield, who was Captain Chirrell in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. He was also Captain Trexler in The Terminator, which is
he was
amazing.
He's a great actor. He has done character bits for his whole career, as far as I know.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in this is a deep cut. He was in Damnation Alley way back in the day.
Oh man, you are going back.
Yeah, it's a deep cut. I know. That's some of my post-apocalyptic movie fetish showing through there.
Okay, episode 5, Ensign Rowe. My favorite character edition.
Oh, wow.
You don't like her, do you?
I hate her. Everything about her.
I love her because she's such a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And the way they develop her character, for me, all the way through. I mean, this episode was very interesting, the way they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself feeling sorry for her as a character. That she's caught in this stupid position.
Yeah.
Between basically, for those who don't know, there's a whole thing where she's basically was in charge of a landing party and got everybody killed. And so she got court-martialed for it, but this has been brought out to try to flush out a terrorist leader of the Bajorans.
Yeah.
And
is this the first time we get a Bajoran, or was that the Wounded? Because I know we get Cardassians.
We get Kardashians
in the Wounded.
Not Kardashian.
Not Cardassians. Not Kardashians.
Well, close enough. About the same.
Yeah, about the same. Yeah, it's less neck ridges on the one, I think.
Yeah, more butt and less neck ridges.
Oh gosh, but yeah, Ensign Ro, Michelle Phillips. I know the producers and stuff were really high on her. Some of the networks were really high on her. She got like her own TV show and stuff in the early 2000s. I just never connected with her as an actress. She did not.
Really? Did you see The Killing?
The Killing.
Oh, no. You got to watch it.
Okay.
If you like, well, it depends. Do you like good mysteries?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay, so The Killing has nothing to do with science fiction.
Okay.
Is definitely filmed all in.
But it has Michelle Forbes in it.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has several people. Anyways, It's great.
Okay. Well, I just found her to be emotionally distant, and I couldn't connect with the character at all.
That's okay. It's better than Silicon Avatar.
Silicon Avatar is a weird one. We get a
the bitter old lady is what we get.
Yeah, I think this was written by a fan, right? And then they
I didn't know that. Actually.
Yeah, they took the idea because Star Trek: The Next Generation and all the Star Trek shows after Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager were the only shows that had an open submission policy in Hollywood. And so I believe
I don't think they've done that in a long time.
Yeah, no, they haven't. None do it anymore. There were a few earliers, although they weren't like fans; they were freelance writers. But I think this is the first one where like a person who had no writing credits got like a story by credit, and then they rewrote the whole episode.
That's awesome
around it. But that is really cool, actually. Totally cool.
It is awesome. I mean, you still got noted.
Yeah, and the episode not great. No, you know. Yeah.
I have no problem with the crystalline entity at all.
Yeah.
In fact, I like the use of that whole life form. But
and so that's a good point too. We should bring that out for gaming, like the crystalline entity. So there's this entity that looks like a giant snowflake in space, and it resonates to create different sounds and different things. But it's Star Trek, so it feeds on like sentient beings. So
it doesn't feed on sentient beings; it feeds on organic material.
Organic material, right?
It's like Galactus in Marvel.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a world eater.
It needs to eat stuff. Yes, it needs to eat things.
Matter of fact, that's one of the strong suits of Next Gen over the original series was the use of science to a more not realistic necessarily, but using actual theories and expanding on them. Yeah. So a silicone life form, such as the crystalline entity, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think they did a really good job with that in even giving us even things for like on the technology side, right? Like the Heisenberg compensators for the transporters.
Using scientists' names all the way through it is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
As a child, I didn't know most of them.
Oh.
And so I learned about these scientists that I had no idea they existed.
Yeah. And one thing, this is weird about Star Trek, right? Is that maybe not weird about Star Trek, but it is one thing about being a fan. I think I mentioned it in the earlier episode, right? That I didn't know what Heisenberg compensator meant, so I looked it up, and I'm like, "Oh, yes. Heisenberg! Oh, he's a physicist, the father of physics, or whatever it is," and that pushed me into
modern physics.
Of modern physics, I should say, yes. And so that pushed me into learning about stuff. What other TV shows does that? Whatever. None.
Well, none. I don't know. Quantum Leap made me think about history in some way.
Yeah, Quantum Leap was an interesting. Yeah, think about.
Let's not go down that road because there's a whole new one, and I don't want to talk about it right this minute.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I haven't even seen it. I know they're
really. Well, we can talk about it off screen,
but we really should speed up. We really should speed up.
Disaster is interesting. I like it.
Yeah,
and I think it was well done. It's just a disaster.
Yeah.
The only difference is we have Troy in charge.
Yeah. And so Disaster, this episode, it is such a TV trope that it's almost defies, just talking about it too much. Well, but because
the kids in Picard, that was the first time we really see, outside of Wesley, his whole thing about kids.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, that's what I mean. Like the idea of something happening to the ship and people are trapped in different sections of the ship. Mm-hmm. This goes all the way back to like Battlestar Galactica, the 1978 one. They have an episode where
the only one.
Yes, the only one for me too.
That's why we're friends.
Oh, there you go.
That is it.
Yeah, I didn't care for the new one. Anyway, we can derail a Star Trek podcast with Battlestar Galactica. So, so this is very TV tropey, but it's a fun concept, and we get Worf delivering a baby. We get Worf delivering a baby. We get Data and Riker and and Troy in charge. Oh, it's a lot of good stuff here.
So much. And it was every character got a piece of the action.
Exactly. This is where we got back to having multiple plot lines in this episode, at least.
Even though it's one plot, everybody's got a different issue to solve.
And that was so cool because I want to see how the different people react and how they work together in different ways. And I thought it was great.
And we saw Data's head come off.
And we saw Data's head come off. Yeah. Yeah. All right. The
game is creepy.
The game is such a weird episode.
It's basically some kind of pornography device, right?
No, not exactly. It is. No, it's not a pornography. It's a game, but
but it hits the pleasure center.
It hits the pleasure center. So you become addicted to it and susceptible to mind control.
Yeah. But it also has Judd. What's her face?
Ashley Judd.
Judd, yeah.
And I will say, yes, I was 17?
You were 16-ish. 15,
I was 17. I think I just turned 17 in October. I fell in love with Ashley Judd. I mean, she was
only about a year, I think, older than you at that point.
She was very young. She was very young. I just totally fell in love with her. I was just like, I'm in love. And the episode is creepy, and Riker should have been court-martialed and thrown out of Starfleet. Yep. But I just loved the episode because Ashley Judd was so beautiful. So, but I've come over it and I've watched it a few times. It is a creepy episode in a number of ways. The opening with Riker, and this chick, I mean, that is the most uncomfortable opening. Like, seriously,
I know.
I'm like, I need to look over my shoulder and it's like, is anybody watching me watch this? Because this is embarrassing. This is I would be ashamed if somebody found out I was watching.
At your age, you probably watched it with your parents in the living room.
No, my parents didn't care for that. But it is creepy. Like, you look behind you and think, oh my gosh, God, if somebody sees me, they'll think I'm watching some kind of weird stuff. Yes. With Riker and this girl at the beginning, or the woman, on the planet, I don't. It's terrible.
I still don't quite understand the big evil plot because they only touch on it a little.
Yeah. But Wesley's back, so I like Wesley. Ashley Judd, I fell in love with her, so I kind of like those things. But it's totally
some good stuff.
It's totally out of character, really, for Picard to play a game. But
that's why I could never understand what made him put it on. Yeah, and they just glance over it
they do a reveal, right? They do of
him actually having the game.
Yeah, he's talking to Wesley and being like, "Yeah, I'll look into it," and then he spins around and puts it on, and it made a good reveal. But it's just it felt like he shouldn't have ever put it on in the first place. His character was he would have batted it away. No, I'd rather be on the holodeck writing
his career. He wouldn't be that stupid.
Yeah. But Riker should have totally been court-martialed and thrown out of Starfleet because he almost caused everybody to the whole Federation to be taken over. Exactly. This is also infamous for Troy, making love to her triple chocolate sundae scene.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Which it's kind of an incredible scene because it goes along with the whole pleasure theory of, so it makes sense in the episode.
The game is better than chocolate.
Yeah. It's talking about how, it pleasure and how we can let our mind be taken over by pleasure, I guess, was the themes they're working with, but it's still very bizarre. It was disturbing. Yeah, it was a very bizarre episode. If you're listening and you haven't watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, don't start with this episode. Start with something else. That's a big one. Unification and Unification 1. What do you think about those? Of course, we get Spock. We get Leonard Nimoy.
Okay. I think it was pandering, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I watched it when I was 17 or whatever, 16, 17, I just loved Leonard Nimoy, right? Like I was, and I love Mark Leonard is back as Sarek, as his father. I love that. I was into it. The episodes, though, my wife and I just watched these not too long ago. Mm-hmm. They make no sense.
I know.
There is no story structure in these episodes. There is no character motivation. They are hacked together with kind of interesting, funny, several poignant scenes. I'll give them that. But they're all stitched together with nothing. There is no plot. There is no, it's a nonsensical collection of scenes. And
it's such a pandering storyline.
Yeah.
It's just to have a Leonard Nimoy in it.
Well, sure. And of course, we're almost getting a tie into Star Trek 6, I think, because Star Trek 6 is coming out.
That's what I was thinking. I was just looking up when they came out.
Yeah. Star Trek 6 came out like a month later or a month and a half later. And
it came out really close.
And what is so weird about it, because this is sadly another thing that happens in these later seasons, is that the stories start to not make any sense anymore. And it takes us away from everything that Star Trek is based on. Yeah. And actually I hear people talk about that now. They'll say, oh, well, Star Trek is about weird politics and stuff. And it's like,
that's sad.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't about that. It was about exploration.
It's a 5-year mission.
Yeah. It's originally about, now a continuing mission, but it's about exploring space and improving.
I have a rant.
Improving the human condition, but they broke it.
I have a major rant. Okay. When you hear the word man, what do you think of when they talk about man? Do you think of a man or do you think of mankind?
I always thought of mankind.
That's exactly what Roddenberry meant in the original.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's
man, that means human.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a big one.
Man has man in it.
Yeah, I know. That's not a big one to me. I didn't mind the change.
Oh, I hated that change. It always bugs me.
Well, but they did it right by having Leonard Nimoy read the thing at the end of Star Trek 2, and you almost want to weep your eyes out, right?
Oh, yeah. Star Trek 2 is...
Yeah.
Despite the gaping Walter Koenig thing, it's the best movie ever.
All right, we'll talk. I like Mr. Koenig. I like Mr. Koenig, but
he does great. No, I'm not complaining about him.
Oh,
just he wasn't in the episode.
Oh,
he's not in Space Seed. Anyways, it has nothing to do with this.
No, it doesn't. But unification. Here's what I was alluding to before. We get Sela, the character of Sela, who is Tasha Yar's half of Romulan daughter, who seems like she's going to be an awesome villain, and Data does the Vulcan mind pinch on her, and we just leave her in a room unconscious on the floor, and we never see her again.
Not ever.
And so this is what I'm also talking about with like the stories start to fall apart here. This was really just an evidence of the stories falling apart, right? Like we start to have really simple wrap ups to thing. We start to have like at the end, they're trapped. How are they going to get out of this Romulan base? And Data's just like, I've analyzed the tunnels and we can escape. And they were like, well, that's great, Data. And then they escape, like we off screen, right? We just cut and they escape. The in between the two parters, right? The Enterprise is tracking this ship and they're trying to find out the ship and what it has to do with these Romulans. The beginning of the next episode, we just have a line that's like, we track the ship to this one place, and they don't even tell us why or how. Like it doesn't make any sense. And it's really starts to get kind of frustrating. The storytelling really in some of the episodes just really starts to fall apart. And like I was saying before, like, I'm not bashing anybody on the show. They're hard to write. They're hard to write.
To keep writing. Nothing but love for writers.
Yeah. And so like I said, sadly, this episode is just like random scenes, some of which are great, that are just kind of stitched together. And it's just sad that it doesn't have a
not because
story
of the writing, but because of the acting.
The acting in this is fantastic.
You have great actors.
Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner are just like knocking it out of the park, right? Like this is some of the greatest TV acting.
Well, technically, they are 1 and 2 for actors on the show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, agreed. And then you add in Leonard Nimoy and Mark Leonard, and you're just like, you're just piling on runs, right? You're just smacking grand slams. And
Mark Leonard, for those who've never followed any of his earlier career, he's very good.
He is a very good actor.
Yeah.
I know he was in tons of Westerns and in Little House on the Prairie and some random stuff. He was in the short-lived Planet of the Apes television show. Yeah. He and that's worth watching just because he is such a villain in that show.
Well, okay. We can't go down that road, but that show is worth watching for several reasons.
It is.
It's not the movie at all. I mean, it's not the original movie.
Yeah, it's
any of the others, really. But
it's the classic 70s thing where you have to have a blonde leading man with his like brunette sidekick guy. And I don't know why we were so simplistic back in those days, but it was a different era. It was a different era.
Episode 9, episode 9, Matter of Time. Max Headroom.
Yep,
great
Max
episode.
Headroom, Matt Fewer.
This episode.
Matt Fewer is here. I like this episode too. It's not the best in the world, but
but it's a solid episode.
It is a solid episode. I think the storytelling in this one, as a counterpoint to the last one, is really good. Like they wrap it up.
It's a palate cleansing episode.
Yeah. They just kind of wrap it up. And then Matt Fewer, if you're just going to have a guest star, just have Matt Fewer in it. And
oh God, yeah.
And
he's always been good in pretty much anything I've ever seen him in. And he plays some really hard to play characters because they're so dumbly written. And yet he pulls it off. Every time
I had forgotten until we showed our kids Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I had forgotten he was the neighbor. I
did too. I didn't even remember that. I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, he's the neighbor man. And kids. Yeah, he's the father of the kid.
In Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the 1987 one. Yeah, he's the
only one that's any good.
Yeah.
And even that one's hard to watch sometimes. But anyways.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's been in lots of stuff around that time period.
Oh, yeah. And he was just coming off. Well, that was right around the same time he was in the Max Headroom TV show.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
It was a really interesting, completely different way of doing a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was innovative.
1987. I'm going to have to do so. I was thinking about doing something on 1987 because TNG premiered in 87. Max Headroom premiered in 87. What else was 87?
I was just trying to think.
The Highwaymen was in 87 with the big trucks. Otherworld was in where the family goes into the pyramid and goes into another world.
Another one you were talking about.
Hard Time on Planet Earth with Martin Kove. I think I mentioned some of these in our first one. Like 1987 was like the year. It was like everybody let's try science fiction, and the only one that makes it out is TNG.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that came out of the science
everything
fiction.
had. Yeah. All the shows I just mentioned had like 13 episodes. And
I think 21 Jump Street came out around that time period too.
Yeah, but it wasn't science fiction.
No, but we get Johnny Depp from there. And he does some weird science fiction stuff.
Yeah, later on.
Yes, not during that year.
No, but now...
What do you think of A New Ground?
I liked it.
Yeah,
I thought this is where Worf's son Alexander, because Worf says like, I can't raise you. And so he sends him with his parents. Well, then this is when Worf's parents bring him back and his mother's like,
his mother brings him back.
Yeah. Mother brings him back. And she's like, hey, look, we're old now. We already raised one Klingon. We can't really raise another one.
And your son's a big fat liar.
We can't really raise another one. And so Worf now, Alexander joins as a recurring character here. I like some parts of it. I like some of the dynamic, with Alexander and Worf, because I just love Worf so much, but the episode is just not that great.
No, it's not.
And then
I like the teacher.
Yeah,
I actually like the teacher a lot.
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really have any bearing on anything whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can probably speed through some of these because I don't like
hero worship is just the little kid. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Violations is the rape episode that I really don't like.
Yeah, I don't like it. That was a very uncomfortable episode. Talk about uncomfortable, like mental.
Still rape. Is uncomfortable. I'm an adult now.
Yeah, I know. Masterpiece Society was just kind of like a so-so episode.
It wasn't. It was neither here nor there.
Yeah,
I could go without watching it.
Yeah, me too. Conundrum.
Yeah,
Conundrum's interesting.
It is interesting. It's not a bad episode, and I actually kind of like the playoff of Ro and Riker.
Mm-hmm.
I like that playoff of them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is the episode where they were all they all wake up, they all have amnesia, and there's another member of the bridge crew, and so they're trying to piece it together why they don't remember anything. And we as the audience are like, who is this chief operations officer that's brand new?
Yeah.
And we are just like, what in the world? And so we find out, of course, that somebody is going to use them to destroy their enemy. And they have...
and they're good enough to do this, and yet they can't destroy their enemy.
I know. That's the biggest problem with the episode is, and the enemy's space station, like, can take one hit from the Enterprise. You can take over the Enterprise. But you can't blow up this ship. And if you can just take over the Enterprise, just have the crewmen fly it over there and blow them up instead of re-waking all of their memories and trying to convince them.
Yeah, why did they need to wake anybody? Maybe
they didn't.
It was just a way to give us a memory loss. You know, amnesia is the oldest trope in the book.
Yeah.
But I do like the way, the thing with this episode, there's two things I love. Mm-hmm. One, you've got the aspect of the audience knowing who the odd man out is, and knowing there's an issue there.
Yeah.
So it's like in the plays where you have children's plays, and the kids know who the bad guy is, and they're yelling at the heroes, "Oh, you got to watch out, the bad guy." Mm-hmm. If you've ever been to if you have children, you probably know what I mean. Anyways, whereas this episode had that element, and then it also had a new take on not each character, but several of the characters, because they didn't know who they were. You had Worf being a big jerk. You had Ro and Riker who hate each other.
Yeah.
More than that. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing with Troy, it's got a lot of interesting aspects that they did really well. But I think it's the acting that did it more than the writing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I thought it was okay, but then I don't know. Some of it didn't make any sense on some of that level, but now we can skip actually quite a few of them. Let's go down to cause and effect.
Okay.
So cause and effect.
We're going to get yelled at for skipping the Outcast.
Oh,
there was the Outcast. Okay, cause and effect.
Yeah, because I have nothing to say because
I don't either. It's a political episode, and I really don't want to go down that road.
Yeah,
I like
it's
sci-fi. I don't really care about talking about political things on a sci-fi show.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can get political, but I mean, the episode just wasn't great.
No, the episode was not good, and it wasn't the political issue that made it. Not great.
It just wasn't any good.
Poorly written.
Yeah.
Okay, cause and effect.
Yeah, cause and effect. Cause and effect, I think, is one of the greatest episodes.
Yes, it was one of the most well-written episodes.
Yes, this is where, and
you have Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, and so this is the time loop episode where we're stuck in a temporal causality loop, they call it, and where people are reliving the same, like 2 days or whatever over and over again. And contrary to popular belief, I hear people say this even now. They say, "Oh, it's the Groundhog Day episode."
It is not the Groundhog Day episode.
Except Groundhog Day should be called the Cause and Effect movie because
exactly
Cause
right.
and Effect came out first.
Yeah, because Groundhog Day, I think, came out, 95?
93 or 94. So I think,
somewhere in there.
I think the writer watched this and wrote it. I totally think that's what happened.
You might be right. It's different, though.
It is. Well,
I mean,
it's a rom-com, but it's
no, but I think you might be right because there's the continuation of learning more, and they're kind of learning as they go each time. Yeah,
they're learning more, and they have a time when there's like, although they did it better in Groundhog Day, where you have no consequences, right? The Stargate SG-1 episode where they do a time loop did the no consequences thing very well. Because once you realize you're in a time loop, there are no consequences because you're just going to start over again.
Yep.
But Cause and Effect was a great episode, and I think my wife says it's her favorite.
The 3.
What is it?
I didn't like the 3.
Oh, okay. So the solution
that was a really dumb idea.
Yeah. The solution,
but everything else I love.
The solution is the 3 rank pips.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 solutions at the end. Data and Riker, and Picard chooses Data's, and that kills them and locks them into the time loop. But the 3 from the rank pips of Riker is what Data plants in the time loop to give them the clue. And that is a little weird because it's a pretty big jump in logic.
It is. It's one of those things, and we've all done it as game masters. You write a game and your characters do exactly the wrong thing to do because you've written your game very logically for you, and they don't do that, and now you're stuck and they're going to die. So you have to write a way out of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Almost always. And that's how this one feels.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah. It's still a really great episode, though.
Up until that point, it's wonderful.
Yeah. We get Kelsey Grammer. I think, as I was mentioning, my wife says this is like her favorite episode of the series.
Really? I can see that. It's a great episode.
Yeah, it is a great episode. And the 3 rank pips a little weak there, but it's still a really good.
This doesn't hurt the episode, though.
No, it's still very good. And still a very good episode, especially when we're comparing it to some of these other episodes we're kind of skipping over. It is very noticeable.
Definitely is a high point.
It is a high point of the season, absolutely, and of the show. I think it's definitely top 10.
It's one of the top 10 episodes, I'd say, for sure.
And then real quick, First Duty.
First Duty.
I love First Duty.
Good.
I love this episode. This is Wesley's back. Everybody knows I love Wesley. Wesley's back. Yep. It's a cover up again. The main point doesn't make any sense because we have a cover up at the Academy, and his commander of his flight group wanted to do some special maneuver, but the problem is like, even if they would have pulled off that special maneuver at the commencement, they would have just expelled them for doing a banned maneuver at the end and kicked them out anyway at the end. So, and
we know that he is back in Starfleet later because he changes his name and he goes on Voyager.
And that is an interesting point there. So we have Nick Locarno, who is played by oh my gosh, I just blanked on his name.
Yeah,
it is Robert McNeil, and Robert McNeil, and then Robert McNeil joins Voyager as basically the same character, and apparently it was going to be the same character, but if they would have used Nick Locarno, they would have had to pay the actor, or not the actor. They would have had to pay the writer royalties for every episode they were in.
That's why they didn't give him that name.
Yep.
Because it's that character. I mean, it is very clearly that character.
It is. So yeah, he went on to be Tom Paris in Voyager. It is the same character because the same things happened. And I always wondered that. I was like, why not just make him Nick Locarno? Same actor, same character. And they were going to, but yeah, they would have had to pay extra royalties. So they decided
or just don't mention his last name ever.
Just don't mention the name. So yeah, just call him Nick.
Yeah.
So there are some fan theories about that Nick Locarno was actually his alias because he didn't want to be known as the son of the admiral in Starfleet or whatever. But now he's in Voyager, it was set up that he was a son of an admiral or whatever. But this episode is great.
Yes,
I'm going to tell you what,
episode.
Will Wheaton gives a tour de force performance in this episode.
Wow.
He knocks it out of the park.
I agree. This is his first adult feel in the whole show.
Goodness. He gets up there and you can totally just see the conflict on his face. That it's like, I'm letting down my friends, but I got to tell the truth. And all this stuff. I think they say they screen this at like the Air Force Academy or whatever. They screen this episode occasionally there. Yeah. To talk about how people should, do what's right.
That's a really good, it definitely has the whole moral code to it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think this episode is great. There are a few kooky things, like I said, like the maneuver, they would have just been all expelled anyway. If they would have pulled it off, they would have just said, oh, right, that's illegal, banned because it's too dangerous. You're expelled. I love the actor who plays the Vulcan in kind of in the side, who's on the board. The Inquisitor,
the assistant to the Inquisitor,
yeah. The problem is they've just plopped an old ratty wig on his head, and
yes, I remember that.
He is the worst
bangs, if I remember right.
Yeah, he's a fantastic actor, and his voice.
In other things too.
Yeah, he has. He's been in a lot of stuff. I remember he was in a number of commercials. I remember back. I think
he was in Law and Order at least once.
He might have been because he has the great voice. Yeah. He has like a great kind of unusual voice, and so he was great.
Voice acting,
probably. But
of course we get a character that comes later from this episode too.
And which one's that?
What's her face? The Bajoran. Can't think of her name.
Oh, right. Well, except she plays a different character. So
but it's her.
It's the same actress and she plays a Bajoran, but it's a different character, right?
No, it's the same character because they talk about her.
It's the same name?
It's the same name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's not this season.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a couple years from here.
Okay. What is your feeling on cost of living? Because I like this episode a lot.
Cost of living's weird to me.
I mean, I don't like the weird place they go, but
this kind of brings up, I actually like Lwaxana. Like I said, I like Lwaxana. I think Marina Sirtis does a great job in this. I thought Alexander and Worf were very good in this, as always.
Majel is just amazing.
Yes,
in
Majel
Star Trek,
Barrett,
The Next Generation.
Yeah, she is great.
Yeah.
This episode to me, it does bring up an issue I have with these later seasons. Mm-hmm. Is they're not exploring anything.
No, they're not.
Like, in fact, like when the episode starts, it's beautiful. There's some great effects shots that begin the episode. And Troy is great at the beginning, and they have it set up very well. It's very beautiful, but the Enterprise is just like, we're in space doing nothing.
Well, worse than that,
space.
It's like, let's just bring Lwaxana on here to use it as her personal ship, which they do several times, and they make light of it. But I mean, what are they doing outside of that?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way it's been. She just kind of takes over when she comes. Yeah,
and I don't mind that, but they don't show that there's anything going on beyond.
Yes,
episode.
Picard and them, they're not doing anything.
Yeah,
like if this was a second season episode, we would have got like Lwaxana, Worf, and Alexander, while Picard and Data and Riker were trying to save the ship or something from a
tornado.
Space.
I don't know,
something,
Yes.
But we didn't get that, and to me, that's
it's going to be a theme that repeats over and over again. The ship is just going to be in space and something rams into them or hits them. And I think it's just,
there's a lot of issues until we get down to Iborg. I think is kind of the first time we run into them doing anything that's the ship actually on a mission.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
I don't like Imaginary Friend, but The Perfect Mate, I think, was one of the best emotional episodes for Picard ever.
Yeah. And of course we get Femke Jensen before she became like a huge movie star, who is awesome.
Yes, she is amazing. And they made her
weird. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, yes, stunningly beautiful. Yes. But they do some weird stuff in the episode. Obviously, we're talking about something that's basically slavery and total exploitation. But I thought they did an okay job showing how the Federation is like, we hate everything about this, but we are not supposed to interfere in your culture.
It was an interesting way of doing the Prime Directive.
Yeah,
that we've seen a couple times, but this was a completely different take, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we also have Dr. What's his name in Battlestar, or not Battlestar, and Buck Rogers as the old man. What's his name in Buck Rogers?
Oh, yeah.
Not Dr. Theopolis. That's the little robot computer face thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's not Hyde White, is it? Hyde White?
Is it Hugh? No. Huey something or other.
Hugh
Dr.
Hyde White.
Dr. Hewing.
Dr. Hewing. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, from
also
the old
one of my
Battlestar
favorite
Galactica
shows of all time.
Yeah. I know. I'm like throwing out all these names and stuff. Yeah, but the old Battlestar, or the old Buck Rogers with Gil Gerard and Aaron Gray. Yeah, back in the late 70s, early 80s. That
which
was
I love Aaron Gray, which he comes in as in the Guild. Also has Will Wheaton. Anyways.
Oh gosh. But yeah, anyway, The Perfect Mate, interesting episode. This is where I had always thought that, like, when you have a big break and you're introducing, you have a big break from the show and you're introducing TNG characters in movies, I always thought this was the perfect time to introduce Femke Jensen's character as Picard's wife.
Oh, interesting.
I always thought, I was like, that would have been so perfect, especially back in the 90s, because she was such a big movie star.
And he was, I think by this season, he was on the People's Sexiest Man or something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So he was there. And then she was, of course, Femke Jensen, I guess I should mention, she was in GoldenEye, which made her famous. Mm-hmm. And then she was in the X-Men movies, the early X-Men movies. She played
the first
Jane
two.
Grey.
No, first three.
Yeah, she played Jane Grey. And so you could have totally used her in the movie. And I always thought, as Picard's wife, bringing her back would have been fantastic.
In fact, that's 94, right? When Generations comes out.
Yeah, that's 94.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, we got to pick this up a
Imaginary
bit.
Friend is just stupid.
I don't like it.
It's like an evil. The Imaginary Friend is just an evil version of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
I
never.
Iborg.
I
like it and I don't.
Yeah. I thought the actor did a really good job who played Hugh.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I don't dislike the idea, and I think the most part it was done fine. Mm-hmm. But I also didn't. I don't know, the way they did the Borg was a little odd for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought it was kind of strange.
Yeah.
I don't know, just bringing him on board and stuff, and I don't know. I know my wife likes this episode, and she.
Well, it's a lighthearted episode in many ways.
Except we're talking about like genocide.
Except for we're talking about genocide, which, to their credit, they reused later.
Yeah. And they don't do the virus thing. They don't actually.
No, they didn't do the virus thing. They did it a little different. It's individuality.
Yeah, they try to introduce individuality to the Borg. It's a weird episode. I would say it's certainly better than a number of other episodes. And again, like I say, I keep saying TNG is like one of the best TV shows ever made. So when I say a bad episode, that's on a scale.
It's a bad episode for them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is on a scale because some of the episodes are like blow away other TV shows by like, light years, pun intended, I guess. But yeah, let's get on here because
the next phase, it's just a good, solid, okay episode.
It's okay, but I mean,
it's not great and it's not crappy.
Yeah, it has Ro in it, so I don't care.
Yeah, I know you don't like Ro.
No, I didn't like this episode at all. But then Inner Light, I don't really like Next Phase at all. But,
I mean, for those who don't know, they get phased because the Romulans have a technology, a different kind of
cloaking
drive that allows them to phase in space.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why they didn't fall through the floor, even though they can walk through.
That is always my issue. Always my issue when there's some kind of phasing thing.
I will give you
all
this.
Science fiction.
Yeah, I will give you this though. Well, of course, LeVar Burton is great. So like Geordi talking a lot is awesome to me because LeVar Burton, awesome.
Yes.
I did think it was interesting that Ro kind of automatically thinks they're dead. She's just like, we're dead. And because she has such because she has such a negative personality anyway. And she's just like, we're dead. And Geordi's like, I don't think the afterlife is like us.
Stupid.
Yeah. Like looking in on people. So it was an interesting concept, but it didn't work for me. And Ro is so negative that I just don't like her. And then we should talk about the Inner Light. We are getting here. Oh my God. 2 hours.
This is the only episode that actually makes me want to cry.
Yeah. Inner Light. I would have said this was like my favorite episode like years ago. I've changed now, but it's still really high on my list. The Inner Light. And this one kind of, they kind of hit some of the notes, right? Because you are exploring, there is a probe. So, and what happens for anybody who doesn't know is this probe comes and it actually takes.
Don't tell them. I want them to watch and tell us what they think.
Okay, that's good.
This episode is awesome in so many ways.
And that's what I was trying to say too, is like this TV show is like one of the best shows ever made, because this episode, I will take episodes that I say are bad and stuff if we get Inner Light, because Inner Light is awesome. Inner Light is,
I don't know who wrote this one, but they hit it out of the park.
Yeah. I know we're using baseball. And
this episode has pieces that are used in multiple episodes later. Yeah. And every time they come up, I feel the same feeling I feel at the end of this episode.
Yeah. Little aspects added to Picard's character and stuff.
A lot of depth is added.
Yeah. To him. And this was an episode where I thought it felt pretty good, where we don't get a lot of the other crew in the episode and that, Yeah,
I was fine with it.
Yeah. And that's where I was saying, like earlier, it's like you can do that occasionally, but I think like season 4 really went over the edge, and like we only have Troy in an episode, or we only have Crusher in an episode. This one felt really good. And
well, like I said, 4 I feel like was an overcorrection to go away from the plot. Plot written stories to character written stories, and they just way overcorrected.
Yeah.
So there's no balance.
But the Inner Light is a phenomenal episode. Just really start to finish, really great stuff. They have some really great character actors.
Some great actors in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of all sprinkled throughout and in another culture here. And we get Picard. We get Patrick Stewart's real life son in the episode.
Yes, we do.
Just some interesting
things though.
Daniel
his
Stewart.
Real name. Obviously Stewart, but
was it Daniel Stewart? I can't remember. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't
remember either. I'm going to look like an idiot. But anyway, I'm just talking. But this is
Times
great.
Arrow is one of the best split season ends.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion. This is why I love this episode. These 2 episodes. This explains why there is this whole thing between Guinan and Picard. This explains it, and you finally understand why there's the connection. And it's a very interesting, completely odd way of connecting that I never would have saw coming.
Yeah.
You don't like it, huh?
I don't. Time's Arrow, part 1 and part 2, the season cliffhanger here. I don't.
Really?
Data's head.
Data's head.
Data's head in San Francisco is truly the moment where they jump the shark.
Really? You think that's the jump the shark moment? Absolutely.
This is writers saying that they're done. And like I said, I'm not on anybody's case. Writing a TV show is hard. I wanted to do it when I was younger, and I tried. I went to school for it. Obviously, I didn't make it, but so I'm not on anybody's case here, because I know it's hard, especially at this time, because you have to turn out so many episodes. You're working on like 6 episodes at a time, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm not on anybody's case here, but this is where, really, for me, the show just comes apart.
Really,
and it just really comes off the rails. We get episodes that are really front loaded with like some interesting things, and they're wrapped up with one line of dialogue at the end.
I will give you that. There definitely is a bit of that.
And so, it's just like, look at this.
I don't love everything about
provocative.
It's provocative, yes.
And then it's just like, somebody will like saunter in and just be like, we fixed the whole time thing. And then they walk out, and you're just like, thanks.
Well,
thanks.
Okay. The time. Yes.
Yeah.
I never think time travel is done right.
Yeah.
There's always an issue because it's not real. Yeah. Therefore, you can't do it. So nobody has a clue how to do it. So they try to do it one way, and it screws it up, because when you look at it, you're like, no, that can't work because of this, and this. Well,
sure. But some time can be, time travel or time distortion episodes can be done in such a way that you just put some of that stuff out of your mind, because you're just having so much fun with the episode.
Like Star Trek 4.
I mean, you don't even start to even think about it. They just have on-will time travel.
Except for the weird little montage at the first time.
That is a weird montage, but it is a weird montage. Like,
and then they don't have it coming back.
Yeah. Well, because it makes the reveal better, right? It makes the reveal better. And
I know why they did it, but anyways.
Yeah, but
it was just weird computer graphics.
Yeah, but having time travel, I think, because like if you look at, some of the best examples, like you say, Star Trek 4, it falls apart in some places if you look at it, but you just have so much fun through the movie. You don't even think about it.
Right. Like, because the movie, it's based on it, but there's so much more to it than just the time travel part.
Yeah, exactly.
The characters pull it through.
Yeah. Time's Arrow just didn't work for me at all. And
I'm curious what the listeners think of that.
Yeah, I am too, because I've talked to people about that and stuff. I think too here, it was such a high point maybe with Inner Light.
Oh, Inner Light is such a great. Yeah, it is a little bit of a jar, jarring to go from that to this. Yeah. I agree. I give you that.
And I think that hurt. I think that hurt season 4 too. We came off such a high in Best of Both Worlds,
right?
That the show almost felt a little static, right? You almost expected Riker to leave, or to Picard to leave.
Well, it's the way they set it up.
But now you get Time's Arrow, and it didn't work. It's like it doesn't work on any level.
See, I like the Guinan.
Yeah, Guinan's cool.
I don't understand the Mark Twain thing. I think that was just stupid. Although I do like that actor.
Jack London. The Jack London.
No, not the kid. The one that played Mark Twain. I can't remember that actor's name, but I like him in other things.
Yeah.
He's a great actor, but that part was really dumb. The Jack London thing was dumb.
I just didn't get it. Like, and I maybe, I don't know. It just seemed, it was weird. It has a different
You're making it fall apart for me, man.
Yeah. It has a different feel. Like the show has a different feel. Like these episodes like took the show in like a different feel. And we're going to get some more of these episodes that have kind of a weird bizarro feel to them.
Bizarro.
I don't really care for them. Yeah.
Yes.
Bizarro. And I don't really care for them.
All right, guys, we're going to have to leave it there. As I said, I've split up these into multiple episodes. Again, my guest was Ryan McHargue. He is a writer. He is the host of the Geezers of the Game podcast. Check out the show notes for this episode at dicegeeks.com. You will find links where you can check out Ryan's awesome podcast and his writing there. If you want some free stuff, head over to dicegeeks.com/free. If you want to support the show in some way, you can like, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening to this podcast. Also, if you would like to support the show financially, you can do so at patreon.com/dicegeeks. Now, I thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep gaming!